Going live. I'm gonna do my intro, and then I gotta take this off. Oh no, how did I do that? All right, I went live. Hold on, I gotta somehow. How did I do this before?
Man, you got me.
Enter audio.
Are we live now?
We are live. But give me a moment. I forgot.
Yeah, man.
The one problem is, I just woke up and I'm forgetting how to do the thing. I always fuck these up. Last time I didn't.
Do you have like MJ handy or anybody that can help?
Yeah, kind of. You know.
Does he babysit while you guys are doing shows like this?
Well, that would be helpful, but not always. Having issues again with screen. I can't remember how to change it from the intro screen to us. All right, I'm sending it to him. Oh God, he's active 30 minutes ago. I'm probably gonna have to call him on the phone. How the fuck did I do this? I just did this.
Did you do it like today? Like a trial?
No. Usually what I do is like, typically I'm like, this is kind of like my standard. You know, I'm kind of like all over the place and I forget how to do stuff. So this is actually kind of normal for me. But this time, hold on. I'm going to scroll down here. There's us. There we are.
Hey, there you are. Hey, nice shirt.
Thanks. Yeah, but now I got to add you. Why the hell isn't Chad here? There you are.
Hey, there I am.
Hey,
dude,
we got it.
We're 2 minutes behind schedule.
Yeah, that's all right. We actually were live the whole time. People could just hear us talking. All right. So first things first, big shout out to our sponsor, who's actually a Reptile Expo, but it's the Pomona Show. Pomona Show, an amazing show. Rami runs it, the Reptile Super Shows. If you've never been to a Reptile Super Show, you must go and see them. Lots of breeders, massive. It's probably bigger than Tinley. I do this every week where I talk about like, hey, which like, you know, our promoter, Reptile Super Show.
Yeah, I've never been, man. I just was actually talking to Dave about flying out just to hang out. I've never been out there.
You really should. It's definitely a must go to. Dave's been there a few times. It's like it's in the top 3 of like if you like expos you must go to: Daytona, Tinley, Reptile Super Shows, and now Southeast Reptile Expo is going to definitely be.
Yeah, dude, it's in there. It's got to be in there.
And then quick shout out to USARK. Chad actually here. He's a big supporter of USARK. USARK fights for our rights to, you know, for us to keep the reptiles and amphibians and animals that we love near and dear to us. They help mitigate a lot of legislation that is proposed to interfere with people's rights to own reptiles and amphibians. So always support and donate to USARK if you can. If you can't, still like this stuff, reshare it. USARK is an awesome organization ran by people that care. Phil Goss, you know, Danielle, all of these people really helping us. And today we got Chad Halker, and he's actually a ball python breeder. He'll be at the Southeast Reptile Expo. He also has bred other species too. Dave was actually telling me I should ask you about your Colubrid days, because I guess you started out with actually breeding some
absolutely, man.
Ball python. So tell us a little bit about that. How did you get into reptiles, and what Colubrids did you own at first?
So I got into reptiles. I had always seen reptiles in like pet stores and always thought they were amazing, like snakes. So snakes specifically, but my parents would never allow me to keep reptiles in the house. So once I was 18, man, I moved out at 18, making like $5 an hour, dude, struggling. But I always had like an extra, you know, $30 to buy a reptile at the local shop. I was one of those guys. I was broke buying like cheap reptiles that I could keep as a hobby. And it didn't take long, man. I started working at that pet shop part-time after buying there for like a year. So by the time I was like 19, I just worked there part-time a few nights a week. Probably never took a paycheck. I worked there for like 7 years. Never took a paycheck, just would take feeders and animals, whatever came in. And I had a pretty nice little collection by the time, you know, I was in my early 20s, and I was already kind of shadowing a breeder that did all these big shows way back in like 95. So I was just kind of a helper at the shows at the time. And man, like the first big show was Daytona. It was Orlando at the time in '95. And that dude, I got bit by the bug that early. So ever since then, I've been like searching for shows, like just doing the whole show thing and breeding things since then. But yeah, I did start with Colubrids. My first snake was a ball python, just a normal wild caught. That was my first snake I ever bought. But after that, I started buying like pairs. Working at the pet store, I would just buy like 1.1 of. I started getting into like North American Colubrids and then a lot of Asian rat snakes and things like that. Different king snakes, and I did milks and did a lot of that kind of stuff. I did some Pituophis. What else? I had a little bit of everything, and I bred mangrove snakes back in the early 2000s too. I kept those for quite a few years. Lots of just different turtles, lizards. I bred dragons and skinks and all kinds of stuff all throughout before I got all ball pythons. So once the ball python craze hit, I was doing corn snakes pretty heavy at the time. Was really into the morphs of those and leopard geckos. So I've definitely been morph interested within whatever species I get into. So I did corns pretty heavy. I did leopard geckos pretty heavy for a few years. And then once I was able, like ball pythons I was already kind of doing them some, even like throughout the Colubrid days, I was breeding like normals. But once morphs started coming in, man, like they eventually just took over. And it made more sense at the time that I was trying to breed everything. I would have like 10, 15 species. That was becoming like the more you get of that, it becomes very difficult, And at the time, like ball pythons were all people wanted. There was substantial money in it, and there still is. But at the time, it made more sense instead of selling $20 corn snakes at the show to sell like $500 ball python or $1,000 ball python. It just made more economic sense. And it was easier to do instead of trying to create all these different environments for different snakes in one room. So that's where I got started, but it made more sense long term to just go all ball python for me. I enjoy it a lot. I really still really do enjoy breeding them.
So that's around the mid 2000s when you pretty much went into full ball pythons, and that's all you have now is just ball python projects and more.
Yeah, I still kept other species probably throughout early and late 2000s, but then eventually, all that stuff had to go. I kept some blackhead pythons. I still keep some other species, but like there was probably 10, 15 years where there was nothing but ball pythons. And I've just kind of started adding some stuff just because I get, I like everything. I want to see some different stuff in the house too. But as far as breeding and really consistently trying to make income and animals, like it's ball pythons for me.
Well, that's the cool thing with ball pythons, though, is there's just always so much, to work with because there's so many color.
And you think we're done it all by now, but we're not even close. There's so much stuff to make, like that has never been made.
Then there's the resurgence of stuff too, like chocolate. I remember chocolate's actually been around for a long time. I mean, I'm not like super into ball pythons. I love the genetics, so I don't know everything. But yeah, the interesting thing was how like chocolates. I remember seeing super chocolate ghosts at the Bells, and I was like, this had to have been like 15 years ago. And I was like, wow,
they've been making that stuff forever. Yeah,
those are badass, and those
still are.
Yeah, and then like there's like a resurgence of people wanting chocolate to work in.
And hypo, hypo's back, like it's back full bore. Everybody wants hypo stuff, and
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does because like you couldn't give hypo away for a long time. It was just such a cheap recessive. It didn't even make sense to put it in your projects. But now it's like it's cool again. And then paint's another one. That was a project that got cool, then it fizzled out real fast and it was gone forever. And then all of a sudden,
I remember,
what I mean?
Around like 2010, there was a paint, and then what's the other one that's like them?
Sentinel.
Sentinel, okay. Yeah, and like I thought those were really badass. There's a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
It seemed like when those
but for whatever reason, man, I think recessives just kind of took over. Then once they called it a recessive, maybe that's what helped. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think what probably hurt that project is calling it het paint and super paint, or paint and super paint, because they were calling it a codom, and I think that kind of screwed it up because people were buying animals because you really can't see it that well in combos, and people were getting screwed a lot, like buying paints or thought het paints what they thought were, and they just weren't.
Oh, really? So it is like a recessive. You can't pick out.
I mean, single gene, you can definitely probably pick them out, especially if they have like, some of them are better than others, but they just kind of look like a subtle granite more than anything. But when you start mixing that in with all this other stuff, you can't see it anymore.
I got you. Can you hear me pretty good? I got 2 people saying my mic is really low.
It's low to me. Like you sound low to me. About
really?
Yeah.
Damn.
I don't know if it's my phone or what.
It's okay because you're like I'm talking to you, so it's not as important that people can hear me. So I might have to get really close to the mic, which sucks because then it's just my face is gonna be very big.
Yeah, scope. You can see up your nose.
Exactly. It's gonna be my fat face right in there. Now you're a fireman, and you said you're probably going to eventually you're going to retire soon, or you're going to go and then you're just going to probably focus just on ball pythons. And,
yeah, man. So a lot of people, some people that follow ball pythons have noticed the last few years that I've definitely been going harder, and that's on purpose because I could in about 2 more years I should be comfortable enough to go retire from that job and just do this full time. But I didn't want to keep that same pace that I had been doing for 15 years and just kind of a hobby level, not too worried about having to, what's new. I never really was that guy before. But yeah, I had to take it a lot more seriously. If I'm going to live on this as my retirement, then yeah, I had to step up and take it a lot further.
I got you. All right. If everybody can hear me, let's get more people in here. I do lives, but a lot of people probably don't know. I did put it in my Instagram stories, but everybody reshare. Let's get some more Hognose people in here. So I got a lot of friends that are in here. Start resharing. Let's get more people. I kind of feel like a dumbass because I'm yelling, and I feel like my audio is fine, but everybody's saying my audio is not fine. What's harder, being a fireman or breeding ball pythons? What's tougher?
Dude, that depends on the day. You take your hits either way. It's good and bad both. It's I don't know, man. There's some fire department shifts that are pretty rough, but then I've also had some shows that I didn't sell shit, and you walk away feeling the same way.
And you have to work out to be a fireman too, don't you? So you
don't have to. It's to your benefit. To have a little better cardio and a little better strength than the average person. It's definitely to your benefit.
Yeah, for sure. Because you might have to lift a 200-some pound person up.
I do that every day. Every shift, we're lifting people up off the ground. That's a real common one, and they're not always small people. We lift a lot of real heavy people all the time.
Oh, I didn't know that. I figured it was a rare occurrence that you're having.
No, just people. No, that's they might not even be hurt, but they just can't get up. But they're usually obese and older. So man, that's one thing we do a whole lot of.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that often.
Mm-hmm.
And ball pythons are a lot lighter. What's your heaviest ball python? 5,000 grams?
I have one up there. Yeah. 45, 5,000, somewhere around there. She laid 14 eggs.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool. And for ball pythons, what kind of projects do you think are your favorite projects currently that you want to share, or projects that you're working towards, really cool, morph combinations?
Well, there's a handful of recessives. I'm into Desert Ghost. That's one of my favorite recessives. Clown. Puzzle right now for me. Puzzle and paint and Desert Ghost and combinations of all that is really some of my favorite stuff. I have a lot of different projects with all that stuff combined, a lot of different codoms and stuff in the mix. But right now, the DG puzzle is probably the coolest thing I've made this year. It's one of the newest double recessives. It's the most visually appealing, and people really are into that, and that's what a lot of people are chasing. So I was able to hit a couple of those this year, and I have another female that may go late, into the winter, and I might be able to get a second clutch and make more visuals. So that's probably one of the more exciting things for my season.
So you can breed year round with your ball pythons.
I do.
They're coming up to breeding and everything.
Yeah, I do. When I talk to people that have a 3-month window, that blows my mind because I guess I'm not really sure how they do it. They must, in my opinion, when I was doing that, trying to breed from say November to April and then stop. You know what I mean? I would just, whatever didn't go, I would probably just miss before ultrasounding and things like that. But the when you ultrasound these animals and you breed that season, whatever you think your breeding season is, you're going to find females that are just cycling off that you're not pairing, or you're not, you know what I mean? You're not getting them, and they're not going to, they just won't cycle, or they won't go that year. You might miss a whole clutch from that female because you didn't get her timing right.
Gotcha.
So I don't know. I think some people have really good yields doing it that way, and they cycle stuff probably more strict, but my room doesn't, like, I don't let it get too extreme either way, because I mean, I have stuff in every stage of follicular development. So I don't want to like cool the room off or, you know, heat it up too much. I keep it pretty stable. And with that, like I do, like cycle night temps and basking temps and stuff in the winter. But, I just feel like I have, like, every month I have eggs being laid and hatching almost year round. I mean, it's definitely heavier. I get my heaviest from like July to September, probably, as far as eggs lay, or like females laying. But man, I get them like that every month. I feel like I'm getting a clutch or more, you know, or have something happen every month.
Probably good almost, because then you're getting clutches year round instead of.
It is for me, because if you get, you know what I mean? If you get a few hundred babies in a couple months, just trying to set them up, feed them, and manage that, like, at least I'm able to kind of manage it a little more steady without being overwhelmed as much.
All right, before we talk more about ball pythons and genetics, we got to talk about the Reptiles show. So
yeah, man.
We're both going to be big vendors at the Southeast Reptile Expo. Bob Voos, yeah, he's got the shirt. I chose a word, Chad shirt. I'm pretty sure I got one of those shirts from Bob Voo. I gotta look. I was like, I'm pretty sure I got one. So that's pretty soon. That's not this weekend. It's the next weekend.
Yep.
How many tables are you going to have there, and what kind of selection you're going to have there?
So I have a 4-table end cap, I believe. I got 4 tables. Man, I'm going to bring a whole table full of like pet stuff, like $200 and under. So I'll have a huge table of like affordable pets, and then I'll have all my fancy stuff, like investment grade, mid-grade stuff. I'm going to have a wide variety of ball pythons. Have
you done an Atlanta show before? I've actually never done a reptile show in Georgia.
I have done Reptile Nation twice. I did that. I was doing that show 2 years in a row.
Are those pretty good shows usually?
Yeah, they weren't bad. So what I've noticed is, and I don't know if it's the form of advertising or what, but there was a lot of foot traffic, like a lot, like Tinley, like very busy. But the clientele they weren't educated on what we do, or reptile owners, or they weren't even reptile owners. They were spectators for the most part, but there were so many of them, and they liked it. They wanted to buy stuff, but the price point was lower. So that $100 and $200 animals, like if you got a lot of that, you were selling them all, man. Like they all just were coming in buying a couple cups, but you had to teach them everything too. So I think I sold, like, the last one I sold like 35 snakes. It was pretty good.
Okay.
But I literally had to educate 35 people on how to, like, at least the basics,
It's kind of good when you have to do that, because I feel like I'll go to shows and I'll be selling so much stuff online that I don't get like too many real in-depth kind of tedious questions, but those in-depth tedious questions kind of keep you, I don't know, like at least like it's kind of like good practice, so you don't forget and how to explain stuff. I feel like I don't do it a lot for like a year.
I didn't. In a show like that where you're doing it so often, you start to just get a routine of making it real smooth. Where you're not all over the place with explaining everything.
Yeah, we got Trina here. She's coming to the Southeast Reptile Expo. Because at first, like, when I was like, oh, this is cool. Bob Boo's doing an expo. I'm at Atlanta. I'm like, that's a pretty decent spot. And I was like, I don't think there's many reptile shows like over there. I was like, there's a lot in like South Carolina and North Carolina, and there's ones in Tennessee. And I'm like, maybe this will be an okay show. And then I start, I heard from like 4 or 5 different people that are in the Hognose they're going to be there. So it seems like a pretty nice location.
So I think the difference between this and all the other shows that are just kind of pop up, between the other circuits, is that those other circuits aren't hitting the general public they're hitting the community. You know what I mean? If you know about the show and like you're in the community, you probably find out about the Repticon or whatever show's popping up. but you're not getting the difference between that and what Reptilian Nation was like. Is that I think they got 10 to 13,000 people in the door. What's the Repticon get? 2,000-3,000 maybe? I'm not real sure, but
I don't know.
It's just how much advertising they put into it, and that's what Bob's doing. Bob is going off the rails with advertising for this show. If you don't know about it, like you're just, I don't know, you're living under a rock.
Yeah, you're just ignorant as shit.
You're just dumb as hell. But yeah, I mean, so he's hitting Atlanta hard too. Yeah, he's hitting. Fuck. Yeah, he's got billboards going up, and I mean, he's doing it right, man. It's just he's doing the stuff that we've always wished the other promoters would do.
Oh, more that's good.
You know what I mean?
Bob's pretty good at this kind of stuff. He's pretty good at presentation. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, and he's definitely, you can tell he's like a fun person to like,
Yeah.
He has those like before parties for like breeder friends. Is there like a before party there?
There's always a lot of people over there, man. I don't know if you'd call it a party, but there's always so usually he hosts his friends and whoever. I mean, there's always a good group of people over there. Like, so setup day, everybody kind of stages there. He kind of hosts people for the weekend, So yeah, that's usually Friday night, Saturday night. There's, nice little party going on.
Yeah. So this show should be fun. And then,
oh, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a very interesting show. I'm allowed to bring my go-kart. And so you can drive it if you want. I
will drive it.
Yeah.
It's a huge venue too. You could probably drive it in the venue.
That's what he said. He goes, it's big and open, and he has his own security. So he's like, you're not going to get yelled at by anybody. He goes, I hired it. So it's nobody that, oversees that building is going to be there. So you can do whatever you want.
Oh, wow. Okay. Game on.
Yeah. And that's like, how far of a drive is it for you to that show?
That's it's not close. It's 9 hours, which I don't mind that. Like,
yeah, that ain't bad. For me, it's like 10. So I thought you were going to be a little closer, but that ain't too bad.
Yeah, I'm not that close, man. Tinley's like 14, so like the 9 is easy.
Sure. Yeah. Then Bob said like next year, I think he's gonna, because it wasn't short notice, but next year he says he'll do an auction and stuff. I think once they get it like kind of like more established, but I think it's gonna be a good show regardless. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if someone. If what Bob's putting into this doesn't work, then nothing's going to work. You know what I mean?
And it's in Atlanta. It's in the location, so it's going to work.
It's a great location. And the thing, like another great thing I'll say is that, the guys from NARBC and Wayne from Daytona, like they're all backing him. They're helping him out. If he has any questions, like those guys have been doing these top end shows for 30 years, and he's, they're helping him out. And MORPH Market's helping him. Darian's sponsoring the show too. That's big. It's a real big, man. That you don't see that at other shows. Don't really have that.
No, and then there was some drama with Darian, which is great because then that was more advertising, so more people
always
seen it done. It kind of it's kind of like it's just like, oh, now people are going to know about it even more.
Even more. Bring it on.
All right, so come see us and Chad and Bob Vu and everybody else. So getting back into the ball pythons. And more, so we're going to talk about genetics. Because the thing is, like, there's a lot of hognose people in here, but, I mean, ball pythons and even, like, leopard geckos, I learned a lot about polygenics, selectively line breeding, and just genetics in general. While I still was working on hognose, but, leopard geckos teach you so much in a short period of time because they have such a fast turnover for generations. And ball pythons, even though I haven't really bred, I've bred ball pythons a few times. I've never had a lot, and I've produced like small clutches here and there. But the genetics are actually very interesting. There's actually a lot of cool stuff coming out of like kind of like Enchi and like cinnamon being allelic. You learn shit like that. You'd think allelic stuff always has to kind of look alike. That actually turns out
don't, man. With genetic testing, and a lot of the stuff is still being found out. We're still pairing stuff. And finding out, like, a lot of the stuff doesn't make sense how it's related.
Yeah,
they don't look anything like each other, and there's a lot of genes that are allelic. It makes it more interesting. I think it's fun. I don't know if I guess there's some corn snake stuff like that, right?
There's like the ultramel and albino that are allelic.
Yeah.
If you breed an ultramel to an albino, I think you get like all ultramels.
Right.
But the thing is, like, people ask me about corn snake stuff a lot. Or like questions about morphs, and I know a little bit, but my dad bred corn snakes. I never bred corn snakes, so
right.
So I know a decent bit because I'd see what he bred and everything. But
Mhm.
I had like an Okatee corn snake as a pet when I was a kid. That was actually a fucked up story. Got loose, couldn't find the thing, dude. It was such a nice big male Okatee. It was probably a wild caught back then because like in the late 90s. And this thing was awesome. Never tried to bite me. I loved them. And could not find them. And then months later, it was like February, the neighbor, like 5 or 6 houses down, shot a snake. He said it was a rattler. He said it was definitely poisonous.
Definitely a rattler.
Yeah. And so anyway, this is Northern Ohio. There's no fucking rattlesnakes. Like, you know, I mean, there's Massasaugas, but you have to go to the habitat. It's like an hour away. So anyway, and that's different. That's like the Massasauga is a pygmy rattler. He had a picture of it. My dad wouldn't, of course, show it to me because, you know, he's like, you know, I want to see my pet snake shot to death. But this fucker shot my told Okatee corn snake. Who the fucking? I've never even heard of any story like that.
Dude, it's a coppermouth.
Yeah, well, it's definitely irresponsible ownership on my part. You know, I was like 10 at the time or 11, but I'm still wondering how that thing even managed to get outside. I know we had a sliding glass door and there was like a hole near the corner, but it was like in February. And so anyway, yeah, it's like got out in February because I remember it was like still kind of like winter time. It's probably in the house for like a month and a half. Then it got into this dude's, like probably went outside like in March, April. Then somehow managed in this dude's place. But anyway, that's my corn snake story. That's like not even really.
So that's why you've never bred them after that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, sort of. I got some later, but yeah, I never ended up breeding those. But yeah, that's mildly traumatic. But yeah, the genetics though in ball pythons, there's a lot of allelic stuff. The desert ghost is interesting because I still think that's like recessive. And
it is, and so you might now have followed this, but RGI put out a video of their findings, and I think, well, it's proven now, but it's a little premature info they released. And after more testing with, since there's more than just them doing this, they found out that it is simple recessive.
All right.
And they were kind of like, yeah, they kind of messed up a little bit, and they admitted to it. But yeah, I think they were looking at something. There was DGA and B and C, like what I believe, and I might be messing this up.
Yeah.
But I believe the DGC that they were seeing is the recessive trait for DG. And then A was closely linked. Like they kept saying A with C, but they thought, I guess, I don't know exactly what they're looking at, but it threw them for a loop. And we got some information a little bit too early.
Yeah, because that's what there was a lot of people complaining about it. I remember I was like, that can't be a poly. I was like, especially
I mean, because dude, for 20 years we've been breeding it, and it breeds like a simple recessive.
Yeah,
so
and then the thing is, polygenic stuff is like it needs to be being bred back fairly often to keep particular, those characteristics. And people, of course, breed a DG to whatever. Then they take the hets and breed them, and I was like, and
it works.
And I've never heard I never heard any like this. The Bells I know said that, and they're the people to ask, and they said they've never produced a DG or not a D, like they never had DG to DG, and not all babies coming out with DG.
Right.
And then these people are saying they're breeding D to DG, and they're like, well, this one isn't a DG. There was also like fucking 7 other genes in there.
Right. So, now that is a thing where, with all the selective breeding of DGs, some are definitely nicer than others, and then some are so nice that aren't even visuals. There's such nice hets with whatever other genes they're playing in. So sometimes people think something's a visual DG, and it doesn't test as a visual DG. So maybe it doesn't
bright, clean animal.
Yeah, real clean het. Right.
It looks like it was one or whatever. Okay.
Right.
Because I remember some dude, he made I can't remember who it was, but it was a couple years ago. He showed a picture of like I think it was a triple het, and he ended up hitting one that didn't have any like incomplete or dominant alleles in it. It wasn't like an orange dream, and it was just a normal, but it was ultra pretty. But I kind of likened that to like people do selectively line breed in ball pythons. They just kind of do it passively. Yeah, they're picking out their best enchies and their best pastels. And
exactly. And then that you start to like get such nice animals that you think some of this stuff is visual or recessive.
Do you work with Orange Dream?
I do. Not a ton. I don't have it in everything, but I have some. Yeah, I definitely do.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one because that's another one that's like a really nice color enhancer. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
It's still kind of even like, I don't think it's finally not expensive, but I remember even a few years ago, even like a simple Orange Dream combo, anything was kind of expensive.
Yeah, even like COVID times, that stuff definitely was kind of pricey. But now, like it's not really much at all. It's a nice addition to have in. Like I have it in my pied stuff. I have a lot of Orange Dream pied stuff. I like it in there.
Okay, that's pretty.
But yeah, I mean, and I haven't followed it super close because there's other lines that kind of Orange Dream like out there with different names, and then the current Orange Dream has like a high intensity, which I don't know if that's the line bred thing or if it's some. I probably should know more about that, but they definitely are a hell of a lot nicer, and they make a nicer super. So I think that stuff being line bred over time maybe is what's making it so nice.
Yeah, it enhances. It's kind of like, say, if you're breeding the best of something,
yeah,
the normal wild type alleles in that ball python, you're improving them. So like,
and those are also better. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so exactly, you're passively breeding. So then again, if you remove those genes, it would actually be a way nicer, prettier normal ball.
And then your normal's also nice, right?
It would complement whatever gene you worked into,
right?
So that's why they're looking good, or better. And the next thing I was gonna, so you're working with Desert Ghost a lot, and then the puzzle. The puzzle stuff is the first person I ever seen with him was Sean Bradley. He's kind of like, is he the first person that had puzzles?
He is. Yeah, it popped up in his collection. You know what I mean? I don't think he knew right away, but he eventually worked with it long enough to prove it to be recessive. And this is at the time where there wasn't a lot of really good codom genes out there. He had it with Pastel and Spider and Lesser and stuff like, those original genes. And I don't know, I know people worked with it pretty well throughout, when Sean had it. And I really noticed it blowing up like since COVID, like from COVID on, because people are really starting to hit like recessive combos in there and really, and putting the right genes in there. Everybody in the community that's making puzzle stuff's just super happy with it.
What's your favorite puzzle combo?
Well, right now I have the Desert Ghost, and right now that is, but I have one that I'm pretty sure has Cypress in it. I have one that I made that's it's got Pastel too, of course. Pastel, Cypress, Fire, and Yellow Belly. That combo is almost prettier than the damn Desert Ghost. It's almost as bright, but there's so much more noise and side pattern, and it just makes it really cool.
Do you have that on your Instagram?
I might have it on there. If not, I need to post it soon. It's in a super deep shed though, and I've been feeding the crap out of it. So if it's not on there, I'll get it up.
All right. This looks like okay. This is a Yellow Belly paint. So this is okay. This is
that's a girl that just laid.
If you guys aren't following Hulk or Herps, please do. He's a good friend of mine, and he has some really nice, awesome ball pythons. Healthy, good stuff. And let's see what else you got. Yeah, I want to see if you have that. So here's a problem. I don't know what I'm looking at. Sometimes it's the ball python.
I'm not sure if I even posted it on there, to be honest.
I don't think you did. I see the redhead clown. That's actually pretty neat.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking cool. Because that's got a lot of noise there. That thing is pretty.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if you have it up there. Oh, this is cool as hell. It's a puzzle. All right, what the hell kind of puzzle is this?
Okay, so that, I believe it's Super Pastel, Leopard, Spot Nose, and I think Black Pastel.
Oh, wow. That's pretty neat. That was pretty cool. How is that one aging? That one, it's not too long ago.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I have it. I'm feeding it really well, too. I just posted it on MORPH Market. I'm not really even sure if I want to sell that animal. It's up there, though.
Yeah, I know the puzzle stuff is pretty neat. I know, like, how do the puzzle clowns look like? I know some people were talking about making those a few years ago.
So that's kind of been a weird one for everyone. I think everybody had higher hopes for that project than what has been hatching. From what it looks like, the ones that are truly visual, like they're homozygous for puzzle and clown, it seems to be real hard to tell there's puzzle in it. They look pretty much just like a clown.
Oh, really? Okay.
There are some subtle difference I can tell, like in the head, but yeah, I mean, it's a little underwhelming as far as what combos have been made. But the people in that project really think that at some point certain genes are going to bring it out and make it real cool. But I haven't seen much from that project that is easy to tell that this puzzle. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Not everything's going to work well together. We just hope it does, you know?
Yeah, right. No, that's the interesting thing with ball pythons is you see a lot of that where you can have genes where you imagine, hey, this is going to react really well. And then you have the other ones where it's like you probably think they wouldn't react well, and then they actually do.
Sure. But you don't know until you try.
Like ivory stuff was pretty interesting with like leopard. Like leopard brought out a lot of pigment in ivory. No, you know, leopard's a little darker, but it was definitely interesting to see it react so well and make ivory pretty insane looking.
Yeah, there's like inchy ivory, and you can keep adding in there too, and it just you can see a lot of what you do at that point with ivory still. You can make some cool looking ivories that way.
Now, do you use RGI genetic testing for ball pythons?
Yeah, I have. I've used him and I've used Charlie both. I've used some of both. RGI has some that I think they each have some that the other one don't have, I believe.
Okay.
For the most part, I think for the most part they have a lot of the same, but there's some that they don't.
What's Charlie's company?
Gray Rider Reptiles.
Okay.
Gray Rider Reptiles. That's the name of and then shedtesting.com, I think, is the website.
Now, what are you normally using the shed testing for? To identify hets?
Yeah, anything. Well, mostly it's for pos hets. So I'm doing like double het to double het or triple het to triple het or something like that where I gotta, and I don't do it to every animal. It's only to animals that I think would be worth knowing, like if the best thing that animal could be is a triple het male, then what's the point of even, you know what I mean? I'm not going to shed test that.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But if it's showing 2 recessives and I'm going to test for a third, or showing 1 recessive, depending on what it is, and I want to test for 2 more genes that it could be, I shed test all that stuff for the most part. And then if I just question it, like if I can't tell if it has yellow belly or if it has, hell, even desert ghost, some of those ones that are real close, sometimes you want to test it just to see if it's visual or het. I'll sometimes, if I have a question like that, I'll send one in for that too.
Yeah, I don't want to be like a dick or brag, but when it does ghost stuff, when they're saying it's polygenic, I was like, there's no fucking way it's polygenic. I was like, it's impossible.
I know, dude.
The thing is, I've never seen any polygenic that had that big of a fucking impact. Whereas that, like, okay, there's normals and then there's desert ghost. I was like, that is a mutation. I was like, that's a
for sure.
Poly. So
for sure. And I know I made some memes to make fun of that at the time.
Oh yeah, your memes are awesome. You guys, Chad, you mainly.
There's some cynical ass memes I sent, but I went with it because I don't, dude. I'm not a fucking scientist. All I know, I have to listen to them and make a decision. But I know what my breeding data says, and talking to other people that have been breeding it for far longer, I know what they've said. So I don't know, dude. But yeah, but they, it was obvious after some time and some more further testing they did on that it was, that it was recessive.
It's interesting that they're getting so many spikes though, because I think they said they're on different loci. So it's like, shouldn't be linked? So I'm like, well, how are those like reappearing? Like, are these like commonalities? Because they found 3 peaks. So I don't know. I'll ask them more about that next time I see them, which is not often. And also, is everybody able to hear me still? I'm trying to yell and my face is pretty close. I gotta get like a real mic. I'm gonna get a real setup eventually.
I probably should too. I don't do a lot of podcasts, but I do enough to where I could have a microphone. I just finally got a little tripod for my camera. Like I'm very ill-equipped.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like with technology as good as it's supposed to be, I feel like you should be able to get like an iPad Pro like this. You pop it up and it's pretty much professional. But then you see those guys where they're like on like a big computer setup and they have multiple screens and they have the mic clearly in their face. That seems to be a point of like showing that you have good quality, is the mic has to be present in the fucking camera. And then they talk and then like you can see everything and it's very clear. But do you really need to see me clearly? It's like you can see me well enough. You don't need to see like my skin, like.
Oh right, I'm not going to see like you don't. I want to see boogers on my nose or anything like that. I'm not going to see that.
If I'm bringing like a snake out to show, then I guess so.
But, yeah.
All right, John's telling me, tell Trap Talk to set you up with a rig. All right, I'll tell him. I don't know if he's going to do anything about it.
He's been warned.
He's been warned. Your first fucking warning, MJ. He'll be like, he'll hear this. What the fuck is he talking about? All right. Oh, you still can't hear? Jesus Christ.
I can hear you okay. It's just a little soft.
All right. You got to do something about those pores. The camera's not even good. All right. Avery's here. And so, with the genetic shed testing, that's pretty cool because that's the thing. It's going to be coming out for Hognose eventually.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, he says the next one. I think it's going to be like in about a year. And so, yeah, it'll be really good. Like you said, basically it'll be if you have multi-genes and you have like one that's really worth knowing, like you got a visual recessive and it's a passive or something else that could be a really big one. Yeah, you get that tested.
Yeah, I mean, Hognose are at the point now where, I mean, you're packing in multiple recessives at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so and you have to do triple to triple at some point to make all this. So, I mean, it would make sense.
I hit some triple recessives this year, Swiss chocolate, axanthic toffee belly. So, yeah, there's more triples to be done. There's not as many genes, though, as like ball pythons. Ball pythons is like, of course, insane. Is there any new things on the horizon for ball pythons? Like some new gene that everybody's like, oh, nobody has this yet, and it's like, but it's coming, it's out there?
Nothing crazy, you know. A lot of what you see is just different variations of like a granite gene, you know, that's like that kind of keeps happening over and over, and then stuff that seems like it's close to something else, you know. I haven't seen anything. All we're doing now is just kind of mixing stuff, you know. Gotcha. There is some new stuff in Europe, but it's not that much different than what we're working with already, you know.
What happened to the that rainbow ball python? That's supposed to be like a recessive, kind of like banana, but it stayed more colorful for a long time. Is that?
Yeah, so there was two different things with that. There was the original rainbow that was it Herman over in Europe. I think that he was the one that.
I don't know.
You don't know this stuff. Well, I think it popped up there, and it popped up in a buddy Ted Thompson's collection that he got animals from the Bells. So there was animals. So this stuff was being produced, and I don't know for sure how problem-free these are, because I think I don't know what is going on, because there should be a lot more of them. I think something's up with it. But then there was another one that was spontaneously hatched by Brad Boa from a pairing that shouldn't have produced anything like it. I think it was like a spontaneous mutation, just occurred on its own, that looked something similar to the rainbow, but it's over time they bred it together and it didn't do anything. So that specific animal, that its own mutation, it looks like a rainbow, but it turns into something dark. It's similar, but it hatches like a banana and then turns darker, kind of like a monarch or something even like a little different than that. That's a separate gene, and I can't remember the name, and he'll kill me if I can't. It's called Mimic is the name of it. It's called Mimic now, and that's not even available to buy yet. So that's a hot one. That would be a hot new gene.
What does Mimic look like? Is it like
it looked like the rainbow, man? I think it hatches kind of like a banana. And then the background starts to go darker instead of like the background would be purple. It starts to go like darker. Like it's not a real light colored animal like a banana. It's got a lot more contrast as an adult.
And that's a recessive then.
Yeah, it should be.
All right, well that's cool. Yeah, because for a while they're coming out with like that's the one thing. The problem I think it is there's just too many ball python morphs coming out of Africa at one point. That was like 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And that hurt genes because it's like, why get into this gene? There's a new gene coming out. Like they found something new.
And that's another reason why, you have projects that came out and just went away without being properly worked, just because there was so much cool shit.
Yeah, now people are going back and like.
Now we have to go back and find and comb through everything and see what we missed.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff missed. Because, the paint stuff I always thought was, like, really badass when it came out. I thought it was a cool name, too, and I like the look of the paint.
Yeah, man.
And, yeah, it's cool that they're finally, because I'm like, why didn't that one catch on? Even Super Chocolate was, like, over. I remember seeing the Super Chocolates and Super Chocolate Ghosts. I'm like, these things are, like, insane.
They are, man.
Like, it's just too much. So I guess, everybody, like you said,
now everybody still wants to do Super Chocolate. Still cool, man, but we want it in, like, Super Chocolate Puzzle, Super Chocolate Clown, and all that stuff, and then add Hypo and Desert Ghost, and you can't go wrong with any of that. That stuff's awesome.
Yeah, Desert Ghost ghost stuff looks pretty good. Those complement each other pretty well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about Hypo and Desert Ghost?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, those two together really work, and then you start adding other stuff to that. Those two genes, it's great. It's a great foundation.
All right, nice. Yeah, and puzzle. How much is a puzzle right now? Like, say if you were found like a regular puzzle. How much
Just
is like
normal puzzles, I think they're like $1,000 for a male, maybe a little under that, and females I think are above that still.
So that's a
but
pretty
somewhere
good price,
around
actually.
that
That's
for
pretty
recessive.
Good. Yeah, that's pretty strong price for a single base recessive. Because
something around, somewhere around there.
Your DG puzzle. What's a DG puzzle? Like an $8,000 or something?
No, they're up there, dude. They're like 20.
Oh, they're like 20. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
for a male, like I have a female I have listed at 20, and I still have it, but realistically, man, I'm not sure. Like it's over 10 and somewhere between 10 and 20. I don't think anything's sold for less than, like 15 or whatever,
Okay. All right, so the DG puzzle stuff's very new. There's like
it is.
You said you have one, and then there's probably like because it makes sense. I don't think I've heard.
So I have a breeder male, and then I have 2 females that he produced.
Okay.
So far, and then I have the original. I have 2 double het females that are adults.
And did you hit that on a double het to double het breeding?
I did, yeah. So my male I hit from 4 eggs, man, double het to double het, and I hit a male.
Good feeling. That's a good feeling on 4
eggs. It was great. Yeah. And I was able to get him up and breeding in 7 months. He started breeding consistently, breeding every lot, like from 7 months till he was 1 year. He bred for 5 months straight, and he would breed every week. I bred him once or twice a week for 5 months. Stayed on feed.
Did you end up rounding him to?
I think I ended up pairing him to maybe 10, but I think he only sired like 5 clutches.
That's pretty impressive. And what's to get these young guys to breed? Basically, just a really good feeder and just hitting them with food.
Those are going to be those animals that will eat every time you put food in there, and you could feed this animal and you open the tub again and it wants to eat again. Some of these animals will eat until they go on their back, like they just, you know what I mean. And I don't feed them like that crazy, but they're just willing to, like they're willing to eat as much as you'll offer them. So when you give them, feed them a couple times a week. And you just keep hitting them, man. Like I like to use like a smaller food item and just continuously feed them one. And it's not like one meal. Like just say if it's like a pup rat and it's already like a 300-gram snake, they could eat 2, 3 if it wants a 4th one or whatever, just hypothetically. And 2 days later, I could look at it again. If it just, when they give you that look, like a hognose will do the same thing. What a hognose will eat. Just offer them a smaller meal. And like when you weigh up, like however many pups it had that month versus if you just fed it one bigger meal a week, you're talking like 3 times the amount of weight that animal can get through it and grow, So, and some people might think that's bad, but dude, these animals are doing it. They're maintaining their weight. They're breeding. They want to get big fast. If they have access to the food in the wild, they're going to eat everything that comes near them. So just having access to it's not doing anything wrong with a snake. And I've never had anything happen negatively to a snake for feeding it and getting it big fast. Never.
No, especially for like ball pythons. I think that from what I know about them and everything, it seems like it's perfectly fine. I think it's almost impossible to overfeed them. I think is it possible?
Yeah. Once they get once they're older though, like you don't want to get them real obese at the same time. Sure. But when they're young, raising them fast is like that's what they want to do. They want to get bigger and less vulnerable. So the more food, the bigger they get, the faster they get. It's by design.
Yeah, well, ball pythons where they're from, like they get like periods of where there's hardly any food, and then there's periods where they gorge. I mean, they handle gorging really well. So and not saying that's natural for them to eat a bunch when it is available and they eat a bunch of small little rodents. And
absolutely, and that's what we do in captivity too. Like if that animal is at weight or it's starting to develop follicles, like they manage what food that comes in. Like if they don't want it and they don't need it, they don't eat it. Or if something's wrong with their environment. But most times, man, if you have them in a fresh tub and you keep them clean, your husbandry's good. And man, they just slam food like crazy. They eat so much.
Is there any ball python projects that you want to get into? Is there any particular morphs that you're like, I'd like to get that?
Man, to be honest, like I have invested pretty heavy for the past several years, and I'm to the point now where it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to buy projects right now with what I have coming. Like I can hatch stuff way better than I can buy. So until I'm done like hatching these clutches, like there's certain things like new genes that I don't have that I'll probably jump into a little bit, but there's nothing crazy out there that I really want and I'm really excited about. I'm excited about what I have and what I can make.
Gotcha. Kind of like does it goes puzzle stuff.
Sure, or combinations thereof and other stuff. I can hit like Hypo DG Clown combos this year. I've got quite a few pairings for that, and then Exanthic DG Pied stuff. I have quite a few pairings for that to make visuals. Haven't hit one yet, but there's still a couple more clutches to go of each. So
the DG and the Exanthic stuff looks good. If I was to work with Exanthic ball pythons, I wouldn't do Exanthic any project without DG. Any Exanthic
it's
project
so good.
Have DG.
It makes it perfect. That's what it should look like. It's great.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because like the regular Exanthic by itself, I mean, they look good when they're young, but as adults, yeah, they're kind of brownie-ish.
They can't like I must have nice ones, man. I have some VPIs and some TSKs, and as adults, man, they still look pretty gray. Like the VPIs still look pretty gray, and then my TSK stuff is like has hypo in it, so I mean it's kind of like a silvery bluish almost color. I'm not seeing browns in mine.
So some of your adult TSK and VPI Exanthics, even without DG, actually still look pretty dang good.
They're not brown. Mine aren't brown. Like they're definitely a darker gray color.
All right, so that's actually that's pretty nice looking then. All right, so that's actually because I like
it at least gives you a foundation where you're not going to have a brown or yellow animal when you remove other pigment from it. Gotcha. So, I mean, with Exanthic, you should still have a pretty clean silvery animal.
Now, what's your like? Do you still have ball python? Like, what's your oldest ball python in your collection?
I don't have many, man. I'm pretty quick to move them out. Once the female gives me a couple clutches, depending, like if she's a het and I have something better to replace her with, I move them out. I don't let them sit around here a long time because I'm turning them over so quick. But I do have a female that it's not real specially genetically, and she's so big, I just want to keep her. But she's like 4,500 to 5,000 grams. I do have a pastel sugar girl that I hatched in 2010 that I just can't sell. I want to keep her. She's one of the prettiest ones I've ever hatched, and I haven't bred her for 3 years probably. I haven't even bothered putting a male with her. But yeah, some of those animals, man, they're stuff I made at a certain time that I was real proud of, and I just some of those I just kind of want to hang on to.
What about that one that laid 14 eggs? Oh, which one is that one?
That's just a pastel leopard yellow belly. I think it was supposed to be posset pied. Posset, it's probably het pied. I've never bred it to even make pies. I was using that to make all my freeway stuff for a long time. So I would do freeway combos to it and make like leopard freeway combos. That's all I used it for a while, but that's kind of fizzled out now, so I wouldn't even make that pairing anymore.
Really? Well, how much are freeways now?
A couple $100 probably, $250, $300 maybe.
Really
they are. I mean, you might be able to get more for some bigger combos, but that stuff is just a lot of that codom stuff. People don't value it like recessives, even though it's a super form. They still don't value it like a recessive unless it's like super asphalt. Like that's removing yellow belly from the freeway and adding a double copy of asphalt. Those sell pretty well for decent money. Like they could still sell it for like $1,000 for a combo.
All right, for a super gravel.
It's super asphalt.
Super asphalt. So what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gravel and asphalt are very similar. Gravel.
Oh, they're actually different. Okay.
They are different. Yeah. They'll test different too on the shed test.
Oh, interesting.
So gravel makes the highway with the yellow belly, and they look similar as babies, but they get a lot more pale as they grow. They fade out a lot. Freeway's the one that holds the most dark pigment. They're much darker.
Gotcha. All right. Alex Diaz has a question. This is a complicated one, but a good question. It's regarding prices. How do you determine the price of a snake, and when you decide to increase or decrease the price? And I guess it's a pretty straightforward question. I mean, this could be applying to like Hognose, but I want to hear your take on it, Chad, for ball pythons.
Well, that's a good question, but the answer now is going to be different than the answer a few years ago because the market it's I wouldn't call it soft. There's so much supply versus the demand. So we really depending on if it's something that it's not rare and it's something that could be on every table, you really got to kind of price it and you're going to price that based on what you think you could sell it as a pet. what, like a regular pied or a regular albino or a regular banana, you really, you can't expect to get top dollar for that stuff. You really just kind of like check out tables and see what people are selling stuff for. And you kind of know, you can look at MORPH market and get a base price off of that. But really when it comes down to it is like, when you do enough shows, you could price at a certain point and see how fast those sell at those shows for that price. And then you could be like, okay, well, I'm going to stick with this price. And if they stop selling, if you do 2 or 3 shows and you don't sell a pied off your table for a while, then maybe you need to adjust your price a little bit. So you've got to be flexible right now to make sales. With bigger projects, you really just kind of call your buddies that are working with it, see where they're pricing stuff out. If it's not already public, if it's not already posted on MORPH Market, you can just check there and get an estimate on what your prices are. That's what all of us do. Like, we'll be like at shows pricing our stuff, looking on MORPH Market, trying to get an idea at least where to start.
Yeah, and I see you've been in the ball python community for a while, like ever since like, I think I met you for the first time, Chad, around like 2010 or 2012, and you talked about that earlier. Your history's actually been pretty long in the reptile community. I feel like, I don't know you super well, but I know you're really good friends with Dennis, Dave, Bob, a bunch of other people. It seems like you're pretty cool with everybody. I don't see you getting into any drama or anything like that. And there's like,
dude, I do my best to avoid all that, man. I don't like, it's funny. Like, if there's funny shit going on that we can all laugh about, great. But you ain't gonna see me in the middle of like, I want to be peace. I want peace in my house. I don't want drama. I don't want enemies. I don't want any of that.
Yeah, I don't think you have it. Is there any bit?
I don't know. See if someone comes up in the chat didn't like me. We'll
see. Usually that doesn't happen. Somebody gave somebody crap in the one podcast because they did some form of enrichment for an animal like 7 years ago. And it was like, it wasn't bad, but oh god, it was like some people just won't let it go. And just as Jamie said, that's what I want. Super asphalt. Like, I think I've seen them before. You said they're more color saturated. They're like darker. They're
very dark. Yeah, they're real dark, real dark snake. But with they got enough highlighter pattern down the back. It's not like a freeway where they're really stripy. It's a little more of a dark banded snake with some brighter, like, I guess there are grays and yellows and stuff in it. But it's cool, man. I like that real dark stuff. And when you start hitting that stuff into recessives, man, they're crazy looking.
Yeah, it seems almost like something that might go along with, like, not saying it's like the same as them, but it's kind of in that same wheelhouse of different genes that have that kind of similar effect, like maybe GHI or like leopard, where it adds busyness and dark pigment.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a similar idea to both of those genes, really. Whether you want to do super GHI or leopard combos, like those add a lot of dark color, but the super asphalt, it just has such a weird reaction with other genes too. It's really cool. I've made a bunch of just super asphalt combos here that I've kept back. I just enjoy them.
I love GHI stuff. Super GHI. Oh, and blackheads. You work with blackheads?
I do, plenty. Yep, I got it in blackheads. I got it in quite a few genes, man. I got blackhead. I don't have it in visual puzzle yet. Like, she didn't go for me this year, but I should have it in the puzzle, and I have it in several pied combos and some clown stuff so far.
Michael, he's a hognose breeder. He has albino black pastel leopard from Bob Vu. And then SK Productions just jumped in here. He just goes, I like these guys. Rainbow is 100% done. He says they hatch like a candy, but he says they turn like a burgundy hypo, almost from like the RDR days. Ralph Davis Reptiles. I remember he had the burgundies, but those burgundies, from what I remember, those were imports that actually weren't even genetic.
That's what I hear. Yeah, I don't believe that didn't work out at all.
All right, so yeah, that's like, so they made. I don't know if they look like that. From what I remember, that's kind of a cool looking snake, actually.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but I don't know the problems with that. We're talking about the rainbow gene. I don't really know the exact problems, but I know there was some issue.
Okay, yeah, the one Nixon Reptile says his rainbow stuff is doing pretty good. That he has it. For this point, but yeah, I guess it's just an interesting one. Like we're talking about, we don't, we just don't see a lot of them. So there's just not a lot of information out there yet. All right. And all right, so I think we covered pretty much like a lot of your ball python projects. The, puzzle stuff. Are you doing? You said puzzle into super blackhead, huh?
So I have a big female blackhead het puzzle. I bred her to the DG puzzle this past year. She got up to like 15 millimeters and just stalled, wouldn't eat, did everything, all my tricks. She still just would like not eat, sitting at 15. I ultrasounded her not too long ago. She's still at 15. I finally got her pounding food. So she could take those follicles and run with them at this point. But I do feel like she would probably need another lock. So, she may go off season, she might lay in the winter.
So if you have one that's like at 15 millimeters, the follicles, they can like reabsorb them sometimes?
They can. So a lot of times they do. Then a lot of times they'll only do that if something, like if they just haven't made weight, there's something up, they need more weight to develop those follicles, they need more food. It's when they decide to be picky and go off food at that time. Generally, like if it's long enough and they don't have the body weight, they'll just absorb those follicles up. And you can see it on the ultrasound. They'll be like good follicles, real strong. It could be like 20 millimeters. And then they're off feed and they just don't look right. And then you can ultrasound them like the next month and those follicles will look like see-through. Like they're just, and then the next month they're not even there.
Okay,
like,
they start breaking down and they just absorb.
They just use it.
I didn't know that, so I'm glad I asked that. I didn't so you could actually see the follicles being broken down.
Yeah, they look real, like really nice and clear on an ultrasound screen, but when you go, they almost look like Back to the Future, where they're like disappearing, like they're vanishing from the screen here. Like that's kind of look like that on my screen anyway.
Oh shit! So it's kind of like
You'll see them stall first, though. Like month after month, they will be the same size, and then they're like, okay, they start to look smaller, and then they'll just be gone.
All right, so it's kind of like, man, what is that? The Avengers, where they turn into
like Thanos.
Away. So he's a shout out to Chad for the Super Vanilla True Ghost. I did see that when I looked at it. I think that's interesting because that's Ghost, Axanthic, and Super Vanilla.
Yeah.
I like Super Vanilla stuff is actually another really cool one.
So that's a project I had I didn't think was even hot. You know what I mean? I've liked True Ghost stuff since I saw it back when TSK made it years ago. So I've had this little project and I finally got the females up to size and bred 2 females this year and hit a decent amount of True Ghosts on both. But man, the internet went crazy when I posted those. I just thought they would be like not too cared about. Because it's just Hypo and Axanthic, been around forever. But dude, you don't see them. There's not that many on Morph Market. I never see them at shows. So people just like that stuff that isn't around as much, and they want to see more of that.
Super Vanilla and Ghost, those have to react really well. That has to be a really nice looking one when they get older. Because Super Vanilla is one of those he's like who was it? Nixon said SK said the vanilla doesn't get enough credit. I highly agree with that one. Even though I'm not like a big I don't know a lot about ball pythons. But I think like Super Vanilla stuff as adults still looks really good and really sharp.
It's real nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like a desert ghost kind of where it's like,
they're real bright and clean.
Yeah.
But they have a dirty pattern. They're not they don't have clean defined lines. They're busy, But so I don't know if you saw the picture. That is on my Instagram. I'm excited how that will age. If you see adult Super Vanillas, how they age, and anything vanilla, it also gets better as it ages. So that True Ghost Super Vanilla is going to age real well.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be a really cool one. Because actually, if I was to work with I would like to see a Super Vanilla Axanthic DG, and then with Incomplete Dynasty worked into that.
Yeah, that's all fun. That's all stuff that people don't. I don't think people think about that kind of stuff too much. A lot of people get caught up, and I'm guilty of it too. Get caught up on what's cool and popular at the time, and not really take something like vanilla and do a project with it where it comes out cool. You don't see a lot of people doing that.
I'm trying it probably looks like I'm not paying attention, but I'm trying to look up True Ghost, older pics of True Ghost.
Yeah.
All right, and then we had one other kind of side question I'm going to answer quick. Trino is what is a good place for someone who's getting into snake breeding hognose that is a good place to learn genetics? You got the Morph Market Calculator, I think works really good for both ball pythons and hognose. You can't work polys into it. The calculator. I think you can. It just tells you it's that lineage. But anyway, good places for a hognose information. Just ask me questions, and then also I know Kevin Rhodes' book's pretty, you know, I haven't read it myself, but I heard it's got some pretty good information in it. You know, YouTube videos. And
you know where is like a great place for info, man? Like when I get into something and I want to look up just podcasts, man. Just look up podcasts, and dude, you get just a few Hognose people, go through a few of those podcasts and just listen to them. You'll know more than you think you would after those.
It is true, because like a lot of times I'll have good questions and I'll sum up like pretty much all the stuff I do. And it's like, wow, if you listen to me for about 6 hours, you could pretty much know the majority about Hognose and Hognose breeding.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you have guests where you break down like when you hatch Hognose and different feeding tips and tricks and sexing tips and all kinds of stuff like that. You know, like you would in a 2-hour podcast, man, you could get it pretty dialed in.
Yeah, you really can. Yeah, if you get the right questions, and if you're not like, yeah, I mean, you know, Hognose feeding, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The different scenting techniques, just kind of tell people how you do the scenting, and then the different types of scents. And it's like, well, you can have those different types of scents, keep them in little souffle cups, just freeze them, bring them out, and then, you know, try each individual one. Yeah, yeah, most of the stuff is like, that's the kind of cool thing about actually keeping breeding reptiles. There's a lot of information out there where it's actually not super hard. You know, people have most of the stuff dialed in because it's been done for such a long time.
It has. And that's the cool thing about today versus when I came up is that, man, there were books. There were like Devagely books that you could look at on each little species. And a lot of stuff back then we would just read books on. This is kind of pre-internet. Like King Snake was around and Fauna Classifieds was around. But there was and even at that time, man, there a lot of information that when someone's real successful with something, they weren't going to spill it out to everybody for them to be successful too. Like now.
Yeah, sure.
You know,
yeah, most
the information is just awesome.
Yeah, Trinity, the Hognose breeding is actually pretty easy. It is. It's just like, you know, there's just tips and tricks, kind of like ball pythons, probably in a sense. Your ball python breeding, once you know how to do it, I'm sure it's pretty easy. But I mean, if you're really, here's the thing, it's like a lot of stuff is easy, but if you know, you know, all the tips and tricks, and you've are really seasoned breeder, you might have a 10 or 20% edge on people, and that little bit of edge.
That's it, and that's the thing. Like the difference between me and somebody smaller is just that it's hard to focus individual attention on so many animals, and to be efficient at breeding so many animals and having a good yield where you're 70% or whatever of what you're pairing and you're getting to lay. That's where it becomes a little more difficult because if you have, 4 females and you get 4 of them to go, that's cool. But you only had 4 females to pay attention to. You know what I mean? You're not, it's easy to miss things when you have a larger collection. It's easy to focus on certain projects more than others. It's difficult to do a large number and be real efficient at getting all those females to go. They're individuals and they can all want different shit.
Do you think you'll increase your collection once you retire as a fireman? Do you think you're gonna get
probably a little, man? Maybe not a ton, but I feel like 4 adult racks is probably enough. And then what I would like is more space to hold over babies, because like this time of year, man, I'm struggling with space. So I'm just trying to sell stuff in wholesale and whatever I can do to get numbers down a little bit.
Yeah, SK Productions. I think he's talking about genetics, combined stuff. The thing about ball python breeding is just understanding what makes what helps what. If you know how.
Oh yeah, genetically to make. You mean like as far as making cool stuff?
Yes.
I think that just takes imagination, really. Imagination and then a knowledge on what the stuff does, and paying attention to what has been made with these genes and what hasn't been made. Just paying attention. That's what a lot of it is, and really just having an imagination for it. I'm sure Hognose is the same way.
Yeah. I think
you can't just put everything together and have cool stuff.
Yeah, there's certain things that are going to work better than others. So it's like, yeah, it's good to, if you're going to focus on certain projects. And that's the cool thing too, that makes everybody's breeding projects a little different. Everybody has different ideas, and you can actually get some, inspiration from other combos you've seen out there, and you can build and capitalize on that.
Absolutely.
SK Productions wants to see you breed a pink combo to 1 toffee or a candy female.
Okay. Pink toffee, pink candy. The problem with candy and toffee that I've had is the contrast isn't really good as it ages. That might be cool as a baby, but then as it ages, that purple and yellows start to muddy together. And with paint, I think you'd need a lot of contrast to show the paint pattern.
You know what?
That
I
would
like
be my guess.
That makes sense because like the candy stuff, it kind of has like a, you know, it's not ultramel looking, but you know, it's in that kind of like similarity where it's like kind of like more
Yeah.
like, you know, brown kind of like.
I think ultramel could make a better paint based on like the background. It's just based on the color spectrum.
Do you have ultramel stuff, right?
I don't. If for some, like, okay. I like it. I don't have any. Like I should have ultramel stuff. I keep looking at it and wondering what I want to do with it. Ultramel paint might be my calling. Maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, the paints, because the paints are like, as an adult, they're kind of like, you said the contrasts are kind of like, is it blurry looking? Or?
On paints, no, they're good. Like you saw that picture of that female on eggs. Like that's what they look like as adults.
So that's
but with candy, though, I'm saying specifically candy. When you look at like candy, into some other pattern mutations, sometimes the contrast isn't there to really do it justice.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. So this is a yellow belly paint.
Yeah,
that's pretty nice looking snake.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I would just hate to put anything in there to where it loses that contrast and that pattern, because that's what's cool about that gene.
All right, now I'm looking at more of your pictures and not saying anything. All right. All right, don't worry. He says Nixon Reptiles has double head ultra paints. I'll find out eventually.
Nice. I would assume people have done that and at least have double heads.
All right, but with paint, it's similar to yellow belly, which has flames. If you don't have flames, certain things that help it can be too dark, but candies, toffee vary. So, does the yellow belly change the paint a lot?
It does. It makes it a lot better. That's one thing. It's one of the original genes that went in it. But a paint compared to a yellow belly paint, or at least mine anyway, it just turns it up. It turns that contrast up, man. It just makes it better, more flamey, more. It's a better looking animal. It's the paint by itself still cool. It just doesn't. It's just not as turned up as the yellow belly version.
I see. Has anybody made a paint DG yet?
No, I have double hats.
Oh, okay. So you're working on that one.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
That makes sense. Yeah, of course you're working on it. Yeah. That would actually be pretty interesting looking. That would actually be really interesting looking as a DG.
Oh, for sure.
That'd be really fucking nice.
I'm just concerned because DG does clean up some pattern. I'm just concerned how much it's going to clean it up. I'm sure it'd still be cool.
Yeah. Now the redhead gene, do you have a lot of that worked into stuff?
No, not enough, man. I started with a redhead het clown a couple years back and just started making my own redhead stuff this year. I've made a couple clutches so far, and I'm waiting on more. But I've made one clown so far, and some other redhead.
And so you're not selling that one. That's a keeper. That's a breeder.
It's on MORPH Market. I think I put it up.
Oh yeah, you have that. You did say that earlier. Yeah, you said
I think I put it up for sale.
And then you said you kind of hope it doesn't sell.
Yeah. I mean, I put stuff up, man. If it sells, it sells. Like I'm going to make plenty of stuff to keep. I don't have to keep the first stuff I hatch.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, because I don't know much stuff about the redhead gene. I remember I've seen it around though.
I honestly hadn't heard anything about it until Justin was already making real cool stuff with it in the clown. I think it was a gene that never really made it into popularity, and he saw it probably pretty early and then worked it into a bunch of combos and made cool shit with it.
Is it so it's like a resurgence one, kind of like chocolate?
Probably, but it wasn't everything. I don't remember that gene being around and being cool ever. I hadn't really heard much about it before.
No, I never. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, obviously I don't know as much as you, and I'm not as on the up and up with the ball pythons, but yeah, I kind of don't remember really when it came out or hearing anything about it. But then yeah, I do know that Justin was kind of like doing combos with it because I'd see him around, and I remember
for sure.
I'd use his redhead cinnamon clown as an example for people asking me why my prices were so much more when there was a like when there was like it just has Arctic in it. Why is it all of a sudden $1,500 more? I'm like, well, check this out.
Yeah.
It has a cinnamon clown by itself is $600. A redhead by itself is $300. This was at the time, and as like a cinnamon redhead clown's $4,500. When it's recessive, it's going to take you years to do it. Now, if you want the recessive already with the gene, you're basically buying time. You have like years ahead.
You're buying years of time. Yep, yeah. That's exactly right.
So yeah, so
and with time, you're also buying value. You know what I mean? You're going to make much more valuable stuff.
Exactly. And so that's like I'd use it as an example, but at the same time, I'm like, what the fuck is this redhead gene? I was like, it must be pretty good. And because this thing, like sometimes these genes they're really cool. Like Desert Ghost, it's very obvious kind of what it does. A lot of people have seen regular Desert Ghost. And, but I don't know what a super redhead looks like, by itself. I don't even know.
To be honest, I don't know that I've seen one. It should be. I mean, it's an incomplete dominant gene. It should have a homozygous form. I'm not sure that I've ever seen one.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to try to find out. How come some Arctics look normal? Because they vary in expression, and then there's polygenics that can interfere. Then kind of
right.
Hard to see. It's hard. Like, and I mean, I don't know if there's any ball pythons like that where it's like, I mean, maybe a little bit. Is there any ball python morphs like, let's say if it's a single incomplete dominant gene and you have it mixed with like something like, let's say for simple terms, ugly, and it makes it hard to distinguish versus if it's bred to a prettier ball python, it's easier to pick out.
I think so. Like I mean, I can't just pull up an example, but yeah, I mean, there's stuff. It's getting harder, and it might just be my eyes getting worse, but it's getting harder to ID a lot of the stuff. As much stuff as we're cramming in, even stuff that should be obvious is starting to not be obvious. Which is where shed testing helps out a whole lot.
That's good. This is this just says redhead, but this is a Justin picture. I think this is like this to me looks like a black pastel, like redhead.
So yes, that's a clown too, though, right?
No, this one isn't clown. I don't think it is. It's got the reverse stripe on the back.
Yeah. So I mean, I have some. I might have posted them on my Instagram, but I have single genes that are real cool, man. They do look like a black pastel with like the back of their head is kind of a copper blushing coming in from the neck into the back of their head.
Some of these are really cool, man. This is a blackhead times redhead. Is that all that is? That's fucking amazing.
Man, I couldn't tell you. I have all this stuff. I'm gonna mix it in eventually. I'll find out, but I don't know. That's all real cool, man.
All right, has anybody got a super redhead? Like, send a picture to me. I want to see this. I can't find anything.
I would assume it exists, but I haven't seen it.
This one's I don't even know what it is. It looks really good though. It's like a redhead. This is like a ghost. This is really cool. This is like a redhead ghost combo.
Yeah,
that's fucking really cool.
I thought, yeah, that's cool.
All right, Jake Pearson's redhead reptiles. Robbie has a super redhead clown female available.
I saw that. I just don't know what I think.
Does it look pretty crazy?
It doesn't look like what I would expect. I mean, it doesn't even look like a redhead clown.
Oh, really?
So to be a super, I don't know, man. I know what my stuff hatched out looking like, and looking at that, I don't know. And if he's made enough redhead clown stuff, and with the pairings, it could be, but it's surprising if that's what it is.
Yeah, it's just a more extreme variation. So it's kind of like that's why I kind of wonder if it's like pastel. Like the super is just a more extreme variation of it.
Yeah.
All right. And Royal Ambassador Reptiles with people don't want to listen half the time, no matter what you tell them. It's like talking to them. It can seem like that. It does. That is the kind of pessimistic side, but actually kind of realistic side of talking to people. Sometimes though, after a while, I'm like, why am I even getting mad this person's not listening to me? They're just going to have a shittier breeding season now. That's all.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt you none.
Yeah, okay, it's fine. It's like, I'm done. Let's move on. All right, so this redhead stuff, I would like to see, though. All right, so I think we covered everything. We've been talking about almost an hour and 20 minutes. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, man. Flew by.
It did. All right, so come see us next weekend, not this weekend. Everybody already knows about it. Like we've already stated, you have to be stupid as hell not to know about the Southeast Reptile Expo. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's being run by Bob Vu. It's going to be an awesome show. I'm going to be bringing a bunch of cool hoggos. Chad's going to be bringing a bunch of ball pythons.
A bunch. And a go-kart? We're driving a go-kart around.
We're going to have a go-kart. Hopefully, man, I'm just worried about that fucking battery. I haven't charged it in like 4 months.
Oof.
Yeah.
We can. I'm sure there's an auto parts store around. We can get a battery for that thing.
Well, it's a specific battery. I should charge it and just to make sure it's okay. I'm going to have to bring it in.
Heck yeah.
Because like I know if you let them sit too long, now it's like a dry cell battery. I don't know anything about batteries though, so I don't know. It might be okay. I have no idea what the hell.
Well, we're gonna hope for the best.
All right, and if it doesn't, I'll bring my other go-kart that's not as fun. That one though would suck because it's really small. Even I have a hard time getting into it. The full-size one's better. Yeah, if I have a hard time getting into it.
I ain't getting in there.
Yeah, it is like, dude. Well, actually, believe it or not, I'm beyond the weight limit for the small one. The weight limit on the small one is 150 pounds. I'm 150.
Oh shit.
The big one, the weight limit's like 250. You know, you can. That one's actually for like adults.
For full-grown adults.
All right. Yeah, Roller Red Bastard. That's if you're going to Arlington. When's Arlington?
Arlington was Dallas, so Arlington was the previous location. Right, so Arlington was NARBC was Arlington, and they just moved last year to Dallas.
Is that the show that's this weekend?
Yeah, it's going on this weekend.
Yeah, Chad's not there.
I'm not going to be there. I was booked. I booked it. I did the last one, but I had to cancel this one. Unfortunately, I have to work tomorrow. I have to work Monday. I had to work Thursday. Couldn't get off work.
All right, and Michael's saying don't follow the signs. Location has changed. Are you talking about the Southeast Expo?
Oh yeah. So let me put this out there. If you don't know the drama that's involved in Reptile Nation and this Southeast Reptile Show, the Southeast Reptile Show took over what Reptile Nation left. Reptile Nation was doing that venue for I think 2 times. And then there was an issue with the venue and the owner of Reptile Nation. And so Reptile Nation stated that they were no longer going to return to Atlanta on their page. But they find out Bob Vu is doing it instead. And we were already signed up with Bob's Vu show. Once he found that out, he decided to do another show on the other side of town. Same weekend to try to fuck Bob.
Bob,
you know what I mean? After 7-8 months of saying we don't know or we're not coming, so Bob had the go ahead to basically take it over, or he tried. He basically did, but then Reptile Nation came back with a different location with about 2 months notice.
Yeah, it's very short notice.
I got an email from them a month ago to do the. I'm like, you can't plan a show like that in 2 months, dude.
No, you can't. So Bob Vu's venue, the Southeast Reptile Expo, is in that original.
It's in the original location. It's the convention center next to the airport. That's where Reptile Nation was originally.
All right, so it is in the original location.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I.
So Reptile Nation is also doing a show, and they're trying to steal customers by saying, "Hey, we've moved to a new location." You know what I mean?
Yes.
To let everybody know, so people don't go to Bob's.
I heard about it because, I didn't know both sides of the story, but then and I heard it from other people. They're like, no, I even got somebody that vended at Reptile Nation. I even got texts that said, "Hey, we're no longer doing shows in Atlanta."
Right, and I was a previous vendor, and I was pretty well aware that they weren't coming back.
Yes, everybody was, I guess, made aware. So I don't do those shows, and I don't know Reptilian Nation, or I haven't done any Reptilian Nation shows yet. But I heard that from other people. They're like, no, they told me that they weren't even doing the show anymore. Then Bob got into it, and then I don't know. It seemed kind of like Reptilian Nation. Then, from what I heard, was doing it to spite Darian mostly. But Darian,
that too. It's all a big shit show. I know what side I'm on.
Yeah, I love Bob. Come see Bob's show and everything. Bob's already had a location
and
before.
I'll say this. I looked at the vendor list that Bob has, and I couldn't fucking believe what I was seeing. It's the best vendor list, handpicked, to be by somebody that knows. These other promoters don't know who has what, who's good, and who's not. They don't care. But Bob does, and he picked the best vendor. It was unreal. So I'm like, I asked Bob jokingly, who else is left? to Vin Reptile Nation. And he's like, well, whatever, Scrubs didn't get on my show. That's a joke, too, because there's probably some cool people there still. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
well, we'll be at the Southeast Reptile Expo, and that's the thing. I'm bringing a bunch of cool Hognose. I'm actually bringing some Hognose morphs that haven't been to other expos in the United States yet. I'm bringing Skullface. Skullface, though, it's an incomplete dom, and it has a wobble. It's not as bad as Spider, but
I'll take a wobble.
Yeah. Do you breed spider ball pythons?
Not spiders, but I breed spot nose, and I have hidden gene woma and cypress. I have the wobble complex. I have a champagne. All that stuff, when bred together, is kind of a no-no because they'll be real wonky. But I mean, I have a spot nose puzzle combo male that has a little bit of he does this a little bit, you know, and he's just a single gene spot nose. He's not a super or a combo.
So spot nose do have like some slight equilibrium, but it's very, very
not normally on their own, but when they're bred to something else in that another allelic gene in that complex, like then it can be definitely magnified.
And champagne's not allelic with spot nose, though, is it?
It is.
It is. So
they're all in that complex.
They are. Okay, that's what I meant. So if you do champagne,
chocolates dude, that's a big one. Chocolates in there, champagnes, or not champagne. Chocolate. No, wait. I hope I'm not messing that up. Champagne might be. What's in the wild? Yeah, I think it is, dude. Chocolate, cypress, all that stuff's in there. Spot nose.
So if you breed a spot nose to a champagne, is it like really messed up? Like, was it?
I would assume so. Yeah, okay. I would assume that's pretty bad.
All right, everybody's on board for Bob's show and everything. Yeah, because I remember seeing that drama that kind of arose because I didn't see it much. I looked a little bit. I went on Facebook. And it kind of reminded me of the original Darien days, where every time I opened up Facebook, it'd be like another post.
It was bad, dude. Yeah, it was. They went for blows on Facebook. There's people sharing it back and forth, both sides. You know, people on either side going and just sharing screenshots and trashing each other. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, the funny thing was, like, Darien is just sponsoring Bob's show. He's not
correct. Yeah.
So. The whole, I mean, it was good advertising. So, yeah, the Southeast show is going to be amazing. It's got a really good vendor list. I haven't looked at the full vendor list. I just already, because I know Quebecca's going, you're going. You know, I think it's going to be pretty cool. So I can't wait to go there. And there's going to be a fucking go-kart. There's not going to be one of those at Reptilian Nation.
There's not going to be a go-kart there. Highly doubt it.
All right. And Stakeful Grace is going to be there. Can we bring up the truth of Brock buying into banana? Now I think we're about to get going, and this one sounds like it could be drama. I don't know what the fuck that means.
well, I can't read it. I can barely see the screen.
Can we bring up the truth of Brock buying into banana? I guess he bought a banana ball python, and now he has one. There you go. Is that what happened?
You mean the old time, like when he first bought one?
I guess it would have had to have been way back, probably when they're like 60 grand.
I don't know his deal with that. Like, I knew Brock then, but I don't know like if there's some sketch shit or whatever this guy's referring to. I have no idea.
All right, yeah, I don't know.
He made a lot of money on bananas, but so I'm sure he's okay.
That's the truth. He made some money on bananas. Bananas were crazy. I remember seeing those things when they're like 60 grand and shit.
Dude, yeah. People were buying them.
All right. Well, that's it. Thanks, Chad, for coming on. It was nice talking to you. And this
is
the longest conversation that I've, like, because normally we just kind of like seeing each other at shows.
Yes.
Been a bit since I had a long combo with you, and it was actually a good time. It was a lot of fun.
It has been a bit, man. We need to do some dinners. We used to do Tinley dinners back in the day with Dave.
We did. It's mostly, I think, Dave's. I blame Dave for this because he's always trying to, like, I feel
can
like
blame Dave.
Like, yeah, he's always finding a new group of friends. He's got like somebody new and exciting. We're kind of like old. We're old for Dave.
And I get butthurt too because I want as much Dave time as possible at these shows too. But he wants to spread the love a little much. He runs off and goes to different groups and goes herping and goes he wants to jump in the ocean, catch a fucking shark every Daytona.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do this time. Yeah,
I kind of just I'll be in the hotel, bro. You have fun.
He jumped on a mullet. There was schools of mullet, those fish, and they kind of like he actually got he jumped on top of it because we were trying to hand catch them and they're kind of tough, and he just body slammed on it. One underneath his stomach and he grabbed. Yeah, he caught.
Yes, he does it. I think I didn't know if he did it this year, but he's done it every year. I've seen him do it.
Cool. Yeah, he'll be. I think I convinced him, and you convinced him to come out. So he's supposed to be coming to the show.
He's coming, man. He's sharing. Well, we're supposed to be grouped together in our booth.
Good. All right. Cool.
Their tables are near each other anyway.
We'll see you there, and we'll see a bunch of other people in the comments coming there too. If you can't make it, that means it's probably too far because you shouldn't be missing this expo. This is going to be a good one.
Or your priorities are just stupid.
They could just be stupid, especially if you don't know about the show. If you don't know about the show, you suck. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye, Chad.
Bye, guys.
Thanks again for joining us. Thanks
See you at the show.
Time and everything. See you at the show. Later.